We are live. There we go. The little thing that comes up on the screen. Welcome everyone to the Feel Inspired podcast. My name is Amit Sodha, expert dating coach, and so much more as well. But today I've got an awesome guest who's created an incredible app, and she's going to be here to tell you more about it. And I'm looking forward to finding out myself, actually, because I don't know anything either. So I'm as clueless as you. But this is the great thing about this podcast. We can find out loads more, and any tools which are there to help people who are looking for that special someone in the relationship to create stronger relationships. I'm definitely all for. And for anyone new to the podcast, you can catch, if you are not able to stay for the full live, you can catch the audio on all the major podcast platforms, and the lives will also stay up as well on social media. So I'm looking forward to finding out more about this amazing guest. So welcome, Dawn, to the Feel Inspired podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. So you are an incredible soul who's entered the dating space. So I'd love to know a little bit about your story of, like, how you got to this point, what you were doing before, and what you've created. And you can, kind of tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, anything you feel free to share, anything about your backstory, how you got to this point, or whatever else you want to tell us. We'd love to know. So welcome, Dawn, to the Feel Inspired podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on.
It's lovely to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. So hello from the US.
You are, remind me again, you are in?
Headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, that was it. I remember because I said my wife had been there as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. Dawn Cornelius, CEO and founder of Human. And so my backstory is that for more than 8 years, I've been living and researching and online dating. And because of my own experience, and just realized that it was just fraught with many challenges, especially for those who are looking for their forever person. And my story is that I was married for over a decade. When that came to an end more than 8 years ago. And at that point, I was over 40, and I'm dating for the first time in a decade, and certainly dating for the first time at this point in the evolution of who I am and in my life. And my 20s were college and young and all those things. And so the most I'd say evolved part of my life I spent married. And now over 40, and I'm with kids, and just a different juncture in life. And I realized just how frustrating the experience was. And particularly for someone who was busy, a professional, and trying to navigate, multiple apps, and trying to figure out, how do you understand who a person is through such, imperfect ways, incomplete profiles, or not really being able to know for sure, understand who they really, really were. And so that led me to say, I know there had to be a better way that I could solve it. So I did about 3 years ago while in business school at Northwestern University Kellogg School of Management. I just had that aha moment, and simple, profound idea that exceptional matches really do depend on exceptional information. So I created what is Human. It is for those who are looking for their forever person. It's a relationship app that builds deep, meaningful connections based on who people really are. And we leverage AI, machine learning, predictive analytics to be able to create a more honest and safe experience for those who are looking for their forever person.
Nice. Wow. Excuse me. I'm looking forward to finding out more about this. I think that's incredible. And as you said, you kind of went through your own personal journey where you really didn't have any experience or exposure to the dating world, so to speak. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's kind of difficult to reflect back on my 20s as a learning point, or to think of that as truly dating. Well, while in college, and certainly trying to figure out who I am as a as a person and as an individual, and you're starting your career and all those. And so I met and married right before I was 30, and 3 states and 4 pregnancies and 3 children later in a decade or so of marriage. Um, and then having to navigate it at a different point in life was not easy. And so that's what began the journey for me. There were lots of hacks that I was trying to figure out of how do I navigate a pool of people, potential people, to just narrow it down to those who would be my most likely or best potential match, and that wasn't easy. And so my frustration, just like with many people, kind of led to discovering a better way and realizing how technology and AI specifically could lend to a better experience.
Yeah, and I think that that's one thing that hasn't happened as such yet is even though there is so much technology and stuff, I think the dating apps, some of them anyway, haven't kept up, and so they kind of are still stuck in their own personal loop. Um, and so people are getting the same experience over and over, no matter which dating app they're on. And therefore, they just get more upset about it, more stuck by it, more disillusioned by it, and just don't want, like, almost want to give up on dating. And I think that that's a horrible place to be in. And you mentioned something as well about your personal experience and, not really doing that much dating. And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is this whole definition of what a real date is. And not many people know because no one's ever taught us. No one ever teaches us what dating really is. And so how the hell are we supposed to know? And what do we do? And how do we actually get to know people? And, especially in such an impersonal way. And I think that that's what's key. It can become so much more personal if we wanted to make it that way, which is great. So I want to find out more about your app in a little while. But first off, I wanted to ask a little bit about your kind of more about your journey and what you've learned. And yeah, the topic of today is, of course, how to know if you're ready for love now. After you went through your relationship breakup and stuff, I'm guessing you probably had a bit of a period where you thought, screw relationships for a little while.
Yeah, to some degree, that was true. I certainly made all the mistakes that are common to lots of people, who are ending, long-term committed relationships or marriage or partnerships, in which kind of the instinct is to jump immediately back into it. Because you're looking for some kind of validation, or you're looking to, fill some voids, which are all the wrong things to do. And so, it's there are 3 things I would say that are kind of the indicators that say that you're ready for love. Based on my own journey, the journey of talking to hundreds of others who are ready for their forever person. Over the last couple of years, one of the parts of the journey of building human was to talk to hundreds and hundreds of users, actually over 300 users. And that has provided lots of rich information for how we're constructing and building out the app and building our company. But it's also provided just great perspective for me about how do you know when you're ready for love. And first thing I would say is that, and you alluded to it, the first thing is that you've spent some time wrestling with yourself. Spend some time wrestling with your own issues. And ironically, this awareness of your own issues most often comes from having been in other relationships. And relationships tend to be what I call mirrors and windows, in the sense that a mirror reflects back who we are, and a window helps us see into the aspects of ourselves that we wouldn't, or we really couldn't see otherwise. But relationships have a tendency to do that. And so it's about getting to know yourself, getting to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what your intentions are, what your fears are, what your loves are. But this is also the work, to be honest, that should be done for yourself, on yourself, outside of a relationship. But it was, for me, failed relationships that drove me headfirst into discovering that and understanding, what my real issues are. And some of that was, really illuminated for me through therapy. And I learned how deep seated my relationship issues were and how they were often tied to earlier traumas in childhood therapy, childhood issues. And so therapy was just a key component for me in really being able to understand that. So that's what I'd say is the first thing is beginning to understand just who you are and what your real issues are.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I think that's so true because, and the thing is as well, because most people are not self-aware enough that they are, and will not take the time to actually understand a little bit about that because it's always about what's in it for me. Why didn't this person respond to me, or why did they not turn up on the date? And it's always something else outside themselves, but they very rarely take a look inside. And I think that can happen for so many people, and it's a bit of a shame that self-reflection is not there, that self-awareness, so people don't really take the time to, in fact, use that gift to find out more about themselves.
Yeah, it's until you've done that work, it's almost impossible to be successful in any other kind of relationship. And that was a key awareness for us in building human, and how we help to encourage this through human is that our profiles are AI driven, and it's what we call AI truth driven profiles. And so what's really unique and different about who we are is that we leverage users' behavioral, their linguistic and biometric data to build profiles rather than depending on the user to input their own version of truth. And so,
Sorry about that.
oh, there we go.
You wanted my attention.
Yes, that's great. But so that's one of the things we do different is that instead of people inputting their own version of truth, the technology does it for them. So profiles are built based on leveraging past behavioral data. We discovered that I believe it's 71% of profiles are fake and false. Sometimes that's because people
Are they
lie.
are they actually fake, literally fake, or just people have faked the information or some of the information?
Both. So
Okay.
in some instances, they're not actual profiles, and in other instances, they're just false, where people lie to create a more favorable representation of themselves. And sometimes it's because what you alluded to is that people simply haven't wrestled with their own issues and they're not
Mm.
self-aware, so they don't know themselves that well. And so we have a tendency to project something that may not necessarily be true. So what we've done at Human is we've created a patent pending technology that really starts at the root of matching to establish an honest, truthful profile that we hope in some way is becomes a small mirror or window for the user, and we know that it'll actually help to establish, better connections.
So I'm fascinated by this whole idea of AI telling the truth more. I love this idea. I think it's quite fascinating. So how does that work? Like if I was single right now, I put up a profile, and let's just say I think we all exaggerate just a teeny weeny bit. I happen to say, world's greatest dating coach on my profile. How would the AI differentiate from that, the white lie to something that is the truth?
Well, one of the differences is instead of you, making that claim about yourself, we use AI to be able to look at your behavioral data and your linguistic data to be able to analyze that, and then using natural language processing to create a profile for you. So that is one of the key differences. So when users are looking at other users on the platform, they can have a lot of confidence in that this profile is more likely than not to not only be real, but also to be the most truthful representation of who that person is, as opposed to their own kind of interpretation of what truth is.
Now, I hope you don't mind me asking this as well, because, like, you know, as you were talking there, an immediate thought came to mind, which was obviously the irony of the fact that this is the app, your app is called Human, and yet it's created by AI. So, as in the profiles are created by AI. So, what made you decide to come up with the idea of calling it Human?
Yeah, great question. So, realizing that technology can actually enable us to have a more human and meaningful way of connecting. So, at the base of, every deep and meaningful connection is truth. It's honesty, it's realness, and when the limitation for ourselves to really understand who we are, to do the work that it requires to know who we are, that's where technology can help. Think about technology that's being used in healthcare. When you may not always tell the truth to your doctor about what your eating regimen was, or how much you walked, or what did you take your blood pressure, or what was your heart rate like. But there is wearable technology, and there is technology that can actually tell the truth, a more likely version of the truth of what happened. Did you walk? What was your heart rate? How has your blood pressure been? And so that actually helps us to be more human in order to get the kind of help, or to have the kind of relationship that is actually benefits us. And so it's also so-called human because I wanted to create a company, a technology that's really all about all human relationships. So, the grand vision of human is to, help people find their person. And it doesn't matter for what that is. Our initial offering is around love and romance, but this whole need for people to be in relationship with each other is really a human issue. And so thus calling human. The other thing is, I was married heterosexually. I'm same gender loving now. And one of the things I realized is that as a same gender loving woman, over 40, it is tragic, very difficult to navigate the experience of trying to find your person, to find your forever person. And while there are apps that certainly, cater to, whatever your partner preference is, um, over the last 10 years, that's certainly evolving, but it hasn't always been a great experience. And so I wanted to create a company that, regardless of who your human is, regardless of the type of partner that you're hoping to find, this is an app that's created for all people, all humans, regardless of what that journey is. And we can create a more human experience in the process as well.
I love that. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I'd love to know, right? So, what, like, you know, if someone came along and obviously then kind of put their version, like, I mean, how does it work? Like, talk us through how it works. Because if I came along and I signed up to your app and, you know, I put in some not so realistic information in there, and then like, would you see, or does anyone see a before and after, just to kind of do a comparison? Or, and then what did they enter when they joined the app?
Yeah, so they actually opt in. So they opt in to allow the technology to access their data. So that could be, streaming, it could be viewing data, it could be linguistic data like, text or emails or those kinds of things. And then you also allow the app to verify who you are. So through scraping sites and being able to yeah, verify your age, your gender, those all those kinds of things. And so you're actually just opting in. Once you opt in, the technology does the rest. It creates a profile, and you have the opportunity to confirm or change something about the profile. Sometimes technology gets it wrong. And then that is the basis now for predicting your best potential match, or as we call them, your BPM. And so your BPM is a recommendation back to you based on who you really are, and not based on some other kind of glorious version of who you think you are, or just your desire to actually have true matches with people based on who they are. So it's a richer profile, it's a deeper profile. So an opportunity to learn about people's values, about their causes, about what they watch, what they enjoy, how they actually live life. And then we have a proprietary technology in which it makes interpretations about that data in order to create a profile.
And when you say create a profile, I assume would they still then an individual has to have space to add in their own bits of information, a bio, whatever people want to call it, about themselves, or does it have that option at all?
Nope, not at all.
What's it come up? What's it come up looking like? Is it just point based, or is it paragraphs? So does it how does it generate that information? How does it present that information to me? So if I'm on the app and I signed up and I've done my bit, but then the information presented for someone else, who could potentially be a match, how does that show up for me? Is it like usual dating app, picture, age, what sort of information is it?
Yeah. So one of the other things is that we realize is that people are looking for more than just a pretty face. It's really not, as people are moving past, especially when you're looking for your forever person. You're interested, and it matters about physical attraction and those kind of things, but it's not the only thing that matters. And it certainly sometimes, can be the hindrance that prohibits us from really getting to know who a person really is. So initially, you don't see a profile picture. You actually see what we use as an ornament that represents who the person is, until you decide to go further along in the consumer journey, the customer journey with them. But initially, the AI creates a paragraph, based on all the data that it's collected, and it creates a paragraph about who this person is, and then shows some of their interests. So you can get a kind of a view of what are some of the likes and dislikes that this person has, how they live their life, and you get a recommendation based on how likely this person is to be a potential match for you.
Nice. I mean, it's been a while since I've been on the dating app, so I do remember there was one app around that had the face blur thing. So you saw a profile and the face was blurred, which I thought was pretty good actually. I don't know which app it was now thinking back and how successful that was, but so your app is going live? It's not live is it?
It's not live yet. We're going live early 2022.
No, wait. So out of the test pilot group of people that you must have, what are their reactions to seeing just a bio of someone rather than a picture? Because you're right. I think the thing is, when you're young, right? I would say your desire to have a super good looking person is pretty high when you're young, but as you get older, that just dissipates really, because there's far much more to the whole story. But I'd love to know what people have taken, how people have responded to that, because the reason I say that is because I'm one of these people. I'm typically quite visual. There are certain things where certain features I do like, whether it's a facial thing or I happen to like a particular kind of face or smile, and then I will delve a bit deeper as well. So I think that's probably the same for many people. I'm sure everyone is different. So what's been the feedback you've had from people about doing it this way? Because the other thing I was going to say was the matchmaking service that I run, and it does get a tad bit frustrating sometimes when I create a match for someone and then 5 minutes later you get a message back saying they're not my type, and it's like, how do you even know if you haven't even had a 5-minute conversation with that person? Fair enough. After that, there's nothing, I get it, but you've got to at least delve a little bit deeper to know. Without that, I think it's just a fruitless mistake. Just swiping past someone just because you don't like the look of their face. I think that's a horrendous idea.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. Yeah. That there has to be something more than that. The physical is important. We're not denying that, and people do get to see who that person is after they've looked at who they really are. So after it's, spending some time and realizing, do I want to go further in this journey?
Mm.
And once you decide you want to go further, of course, you get to see their profile pic. And, but at that point, it's after you really got a chance to understand who they are.
Mm.
The reactions, you're exactly right. That was one of the things that we knew that could be a potential barrier that we wanted to check and test early on with users. And overwhelmingly, it was not a barrier for those who were looking for their forever person.
Mm.
So those looking who were tending to look for more casual relationships and casual dating, it was highly important, to be able to see who the person was early on. But for those who were looking for their person and were looking for something more serious, not not nearly as an issue, which was leads to actually the second thing around how do you know you're ready for love is that you've released the need to be right. um, and one of the things that I certainly learned on my journey and talking to a whole lot of other people who are looking for their forever person is that there is a pivotal breaking point in our lives. It was certainly in my life in regards to relationships, and you realize that I don't know, maybe the view of myself, the world, others, the way I've been thinking about relationships or thinking about who a person needs to be or look like, or all of those things in which you realize maybe I could be interpreting it through a set of experiences or past pain that's coloring and distorting my view of myself and inherently distorting the view of relationships. And so eventually you have to come to a realization where you realize that I could be wrong, and that being right is no longer the motivation or the need, but instead you become more concerned about being clear, about being honest, about being true with yourself, and you abandon that need to be right. And so you exchange being right for really seeking to understand and to be understood.
Yeah, it's like the idea of projecting, isn't it? Is we have uh, whether it's past relationships or just projecting what you want, and when people don't live up to that, immediately you get disappointed, and people and respond and not only just respond but react to that in that way. What's interesting as well, me and my wife, when we met, like I had no particular expectations about who I was going to meet. They could be black, white, Chinese. It like literally did not matter to me. I was open to meeting anyone and everyone. And ironically, and she was the same as well. And ironically, we both met. Came from the same. We don't care about caste, but we came from the same caste. We had family connections and stuff like that. And although 40 plus years we'd both been around, we'd never come across each other, ironically enough. But it just so happens that when we let that go, we kind of met what would have been nice, but it just happened. And I think that's something that happens to a lot of people. They have this preconceived idea, they have this deep expectation, but they don't realize that expectation, I think, often holds them back and stops them from meeting some incredibly wonderful people. I've seen it happen over and over again, and it's a real shame. It's so true, though. When you let that go and stop trying to be right, then I think magical things happen.
Yeah, you have to leave room to evolve and to grow, to expand. And I love the way that Gary Zukav talks
Mm.
about spiritual partnership.
Yeah.
And so you lose the opportunity to have the benefit and the joy of being in a spiritual partnership. And,
Mm.
he defines it as it's a spiritual partnership is a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. And, that's not about religion or spiritual beliefs or any of those things, but it's really about, does this create a commitment that helps you to grow and be the kind of person you want to be. And so that's that's exactly correct. I love that you're sharing that as your experience. It was certainly my experience, and it's been the experience of hundreds of others that I've talked to, that there is that pivotal moment. And
I love Gary Zukav. He's done amazing books. I love Sea of the Soul and some of the others as well. And funny enough, I put up this quote on my Insta the other day: "A true spiritual partner is one who encourages you to look deep inside yourself for the beauty and love you've been seeking. A true teacher is someone who helps us discover the teacher in yourself." And I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the person, because I just can't say his name and I will butcher it. But it's on my Instagram if anyone wants to check it out. But it's so true, though. I think that is what it's ultimately about. And again, just touching upon me and my wife, we do come from a different, even though we're both born Hindus and stuff, we both actually have very different spiritual beliefs. But ultimately, we came to a very deep understanding from very early on that didn't matter. What we both understood was they just wanted to both be good people, pray the way we wanted to pray, and just love and enjoy life, and that was it. And that was what was in common. The rest of it, then what we call it and all this kind of stuff, it's just semantics, really. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything. But what does matter is what we're both striving for, and that is to be good people, help each other grow, and have fun and enjoy life. And I think that's the bedrock of it, really, to be honest, and that's the bedrock of any great relationship.
Yep, those are the kind of encapsulate in a great story. Those first two things, you've wrestled with your own stuff and you've released this need to be right. You really do open yourself up for something that could be truly magical.
Yeah, absolutely. So what drove you to this? I mean, like, was there a specific event? Like, because, again, I hear the stories day in and day out in my journey, and, all the people that I coach and help is with regards to dating apps and the hazards, the mishaps, the events, everything. Was it something specific for you? Was it just generally over a period of time, it just kind of, the process wore you down?
It was years. Years and years of like, oh my gosh, it has to be a better way. It is exhausting. The continuous, swiping, and something that can actually become so mindless. And it's amazing that something can be so mindless that is so significant in your life, and just literally frustrating. Yes, I've certainly had, lots of, horrible, dating app experiences, but not to color them all so badly either. I've had some situations that were really good, that I've met some, kind people, but it wasn't for, without a lot of work, and it wasn't for the faint of heart. But early on, until I kind of realized what some of the hacks needed to be to kind of work around what wasn't a great situation, were things like figuring out, okay, how many times do we need to message each other through the app before we need to move this to a phone call? How quickly does the phone call, within 10-15 minutes, do we kind of get to the heart of, oh my gosh, this person isn't remotely who they claim to be. And then if we make it past that step, how many times do we, meet up in order for me to just try to understand who you are? And I realized there could have been so much more knowledge and exposure and just transparency and vulnerability and honesty on the front end that would have made the experience so much easier. So no one single moment, but a whole lot of moments that really led to that experience, and very typical to lots of other people who just kind of bailed out at some point, and just recognize that I'm just going to trust the universe to conspire to bring this person to me.
Yeah. And how long was it actually that you, from your breakup to meeting your new partner? How long was that process? And did it take to meet that person? And then also, when you met this person, how long until you kind of like decided, yes, this is my special someone?
Well, not quite partnered yet, but 8 years of online dating.
Yeah.
years. And over the last couple of years, while in business school was kind of that process of realizing, I can actually solve this, and have been off current dating apps because I realized there wasn't a solution for what I needed.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how long has it taken you to develop this app and get it to this point?
Yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, three years ago was kind of when the aha moment first came. Spent about a year or so to 2 years of incubating it, learning, researching, digging deep, concepting, and then finally made the jump May of this year of 2021 to leave my full time job and to hop into being a founder full time. So it's just been the last 6 months that have truly been, building human full time.
And it's a very tough market to break as well. I mean, to leave obviously your full-time job and do this now full-time and manage it and create, work on your creation. I think it's incredible. And how do you feel about the challenges ahead of, getting out there, turning it into a mainstream app, and, and putting, creating some disruption, should we say, in what can be quite a crowded marketplace, but also a very outdated and very, a marketplace that needs a bit of changing, I think, as well.
Yeah, it is. It is a crowded and fragmented marketplace for sure. Lots of apps in the market. And to be truthful, I think there is space and room for many
Mm.
of them, if not all of them. Yeah, certainly not every app startup or dating app startup is going to survive. Those that are currently in the market, and those that kind of will enter it. But there is room. Not every person is looking for their forever person. Our target is those who are over 30 to 50-year olds, kind of the primary target, who have made that decision that they're in a place where they're actually ready for that forever person. So we have a very, very specific target, but there are millions and millions of these users across the US and across the world. The future is bright. I'd say there is currently no solution that really fills the gap and solves the unique challenge for those who want to find that person, but want to find it in a way that where they understand how matching markets really work. And that is that exceptional matches depend on exceptional information. And that is at the core of the challenge. In our normal offline life, we would meet someone, organically, quote unquote, somewhere. And we would, seek over a period of time to garner information, to understand who they are through conversations, through time spent. And it's from those experiences and those interactions and trusting that they're willing to be seen, they're willing to be vulnerable, that we, gather some insight and thoughts about, wow, is this, someone that, we could potentially explore what it would mean to be in relationship beyond this. And so, but now we use, technology in order to facilitate that process, not assuming that we'll meet someone organically. Our person may not live in our neighborhood, in our city, on our street. They may not even be in our own state or country. And so technology literally opens the entire universe and the world to us in a way that we never knew before. And so the process for how we build those relationships should still mirror very, closely as possible what it meant in the offline world to be able to do that. And so that's the space that human feels, in the space that human can feel in a way that no other app or relationship technology does today.
I'm so fascinated by this. I don't know if you've got access to your system right now. I'm just so fascinated what kind of profile it would pull up for me if you put me in there. Is that possible? Can we have a look at this? I'd just love to see what it comes up with.
Yes, we'll have to do that as soon as
Can
we
you do
launch.
it now
Maybe
so we can
as one of
review
our
that?
beta. I'm sorry.
Can you do that now? Are you able to do that now?
Not we're not ready to do it now, but in the next few weeks.
All right, cool. No worries. I'm just sheer morbid curiosity, like what it pulls up for me, what it says. I would just love to see that. I had Flora on the podcast the other day, and I was telling her that I'd never done a not love languages, attachment styles.
Okay.
I did the questionnaire on her website because I've never actually done one before, and so I was quite curious to see how it came out, and it came out as secure, which was as sort of expected, without being too cocky. But it was interesting though. So I'm just fascinated. Obviously, it's been a while since I had to write my own dating profile. I help people do theirs all the time, so I do often think what I would write now, were I out there dating, or what would be in this case generated for me if I were to use human and just see what see. Could people actually? So when it's generated, they see their own profile as well, and they can then obviously add or anything, take it away or make
That's
adjustments.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And as we mentioned kind of offline in another chat where we were, I can just see so many possibilities for how we collab, even with your work, as the in-person human matchmaker,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and leveraging, our technology maybe to help make that process even faster and smoother. Because even when technology is able to make a recommendation for us, it doesn't take away still the human element of the work that every individual still has to do to be ready. And even when we think we're ready and we end up in a relationship, there's still so much more work to do. And so I
yeah. Because
really see the advantage of how you help, you know, even prepare people to be ready for an app like Human.
Yeah, I mean, I have to remind people all the time that, look, don't forget, I'm willing to bet you've passed by on at least 5 people who are perfect for you already, because and what happened to me was that I was the type of person before I got good at dating. Weird phrase to use for many people, but it was because I say it's a learned skill. That before I got good at dating, people saw a version of me which was just not me, but it was a nervous, bumbling, stupid, say really strange shit type of version of me that would never normally manifest in any other situation. But when it came to dating, that weird version of me would always come out, and that's what people saw. And when they saw that, they would also assume not my type, not for me, and they would swipe by, or just the interaction would end there. um so helping people in that initial stage get ready, and just making sure, maybe this is something that you could add at some point, is just a little questionnaire just to help people and say, look, that I mean, I don't know what you'd add in there, but to help them get to a point where they feel more ready, feel more relaxed, feel ready to, as you mentioned as well, be ready to enjoy the process, not want to be right all the time, and just allow what's going to flow, because I think there's a lot to be said about that art of allowing, and just so, as the word I like to use is surrender, and see what what may come, and just take it from there. But yeah, I think everyone needs a little bit of work within themselves when they're embarking on this journey, and truly it is more about that journey of self-discovery and journey of self-creation that
Mhm.
we go upon. But you know not everyone understands that, not everyone's able to put that into action, not everyone's able to um that I think so many people understand it on an intellectual level, and they'll say, yeah, I know what you mean, but then they don't actually apply that. They don't really have that wisdom to actually apply it and make it happen for themselves. So I think that you never know, that could be you could take my brain, turn it into a bit of an AI, and coach people before they actually do anything else.
That's exactly right. One of the other features that I didn't mention is that in throughout the app journey is that you can speak to the app as a way of also interacting. So take your experience as well. That imagine being in the comfort of your own home and you're speaking your answering questions, what makes you uniquely you, offering the consents and the technology to be able to to really understand who you are, based on your patterns of speech, based on your sentiments, based on what you actually say, and being able to interpret that is a pretty powerful tool to help someone who, may be a little anxious about the experience. But for those who are willing to discover who someone really is and kind of get past that to say, oh, okay, here's who they really are, and that's someone I'm willing to, I want to explore a little bit further. And you mentioned about sometimes passing up on people that could have been perfect. That's one of the things that's really unique about our recommendation engine is the ability to recommend to you, those who would be your best potential match based on this AI driven truth profile, where you may have not selected them. But, based on what we understand, we know that this could be a really, really strong opportunity for you. And so getting people to, be more open and to explore, um, and to, really enjoy the journey and have a successful journey of finding their forever person.
I love it. I love it. I think that this is going to be very powerful. So you're launching early in 2022, and is it going to be available worldwide?
Not initially. It'll be available. We're launching in the US for our initial launch and hope to move internationally, quickly after that. You asked earlier about the journey to building. I mean, it's a tough journey. Building a tech company as I'm not a technologist in the traditional sense of being a technologist, of being an engineering background or a coder. My background is marketing, publishing and media, social and entrepreneurship along the way, nonprofit leadership, and even some ministry type work. And so, but what I do have is the ability to see problems that other people can't see. And in that sense, to figure out what is then the right solution for that problem. So there are lots of ups and there are lots of downs. In building a tech company and being woman, being taken seriously, being a Black woman, and hiring talent and raising capital and all of those challenges that every startup founder certainly has. But the great part about the journey is knowing that I'm building something that's going to leave an incredible legacy, and truly revolutionize what it means to help people find their person. And so that's the exciting part. That's what keeps me driven and determined and confident. And just the amount of validation that I've received along the way from AI experts, from other technologists, from programmers, from social scientists. We're actually have filed we're patent pending with the technology at this point. So knowing that we're building something that's novel and a new way of thinking about this space, it's exciting. And I'm excited for users to get to experience it and for it to be in the marketplace really, really soon.
Well, I think it's an incredible endeavor. I mean, I built one app before, but that was a while ago, and I know how tough it can be. So, and I think this is probably a whole other level as well, especially including the whole AI element. So, I think kudos to you for taking on such a grand task, grand challenge, and rising up and stepping up to the plate to take it on and see what happens. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Is there anything I haven't asked you today that you want to share actually about the app and how people can connect with you and where they can reach out to you if they want to find out more or pre-register their interest?
Yep, that's exactly correct. Thank you for that. So the wait list is now open and people can join by going to myhumanapp.com. And of course, stay connected with us on socials, across all socials. We're at myhumanapp. And yeah, let's be one of the first users to be a part of the platform, and you'll get a chance to be in our kind of an initial testing. So yeah, that's
fantastic. I'll make sure I mention that on the links when I upload the audio as well to the pre-registration now. But yeah, no, I think it's incredible, Dawn, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out, how this turns out, and I can't wait to see the outcome and how people find it, the experience, and again, who people meet and finding their first loved ones. It's I started my matchmaking service in May, and I do have people asking me all the time, have you had any weddings for me yet? And I'm like, calm down. Like it's only been, 6-7 months. I'm not expecting the first matches for at least a year. And I had a message the other day from someone saying, actually, I met someone from there and things are going really well, touch wood. So it's really, really good to hear. I think that does make it all worthwhile. All the headaches, the challenges, the problems that have happened all being quelled by this one story that's come back, which is great. So fingers crossed that continues. But really admire your tenacity and your courage and just doing this and going for it and see what happens and leaving and creating your legacy.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Yep. Legacy is a great word.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it is going to be an amazing legacy as well. So thank you, Dawn, for coming on to the Feel Inspired podcast. And for anyone who's just caught the tail end of this, don't worry, the audio will be up on all the major podcast platforms, and I will include links so you can connect with Dawn or stay in touch with her company on social media at My Human App. And who knows, it may even be in the UK soon as well. Who knows?
Yes.
We'll petition for it to be in the UK. We'll make it mandatory to come to the UK. So
that's awesome. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you again to everyone else. Thank you for tuning into the Feel Inspired podcast. My name is Amit Sodha. Stay in touch with me as well. And I will see you all on the next episode. Dawn, stay with me and I'll end the broadcast. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.